What's up guys, my name is Kelvin Wiley and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new, if you could please hit that subscribe button and also hit the bell icon and turn on post notifications. That way you're alerted every time that I post a new video. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make an enclosure to care for baby jumping spiders. Now the species that I'm going to be working with today are regal jumping spiders, which are Phidippus regius. It won't really make a difference what species that you're going to be using. They're mostly all the same. I mean, they vary slightly, but all in all, it shouldn't really make a difference what species that you have. So yeah. So without further ado, enough talking, let's get right into the video. Real quick before I go any further in this video, I forgot to mention that I was keeping my female jumping spider in my black widow enclosure. Well, an enclosure that was for a black widow, but sadly she passed. So I kept my female in the enclosure and she laid an egg sac. So if you were wondering why an egg sac is in an enclosure that really isn't for a jumping spider, that's why. So I just want to give you the backstory behind that. So for the video, I'm just going to refer to this enclosure as Enclosure A, and then this one, this 32 ounce container, will be Enclosure B, okay? But for the start of the video, I'm going to work with Enclosure A. Now, what you want to do, if let's say you did not want the jumping spiders to be in the enclosure that they were laid in, let's say you wanted them to be in this enclosure, you can very well do the most tedious method in removing all the jumping spiders all at once and putting them into the enclosure, your desired enclosure. I'm just going to show you, which I'm not going to remove every single jumping spider because I'm actually going to show you how you can contain them in, let's say, an enclosure like this one, right? Because honestly, I didn't really want them to be in this enclosure, but I can make it work. I've done it before, so it doesn't really matter. If they're in this one, they will still be fine. You know, they'll still be able to be raised perfectly okay in this enclosure. So you can take a knife, okay? And what you're gonna wanna do is, let's say for example, this one, if I'm gonna go and try to remove him, I'm just going to go to the back of him and see, just like that, dangle him and put him in that enclosure. So you kind of just scoop up the back because the baby jumping spiders will leave a little safety line. Oops, that one kind of fell. They'll leave a little safety line, and the tip of your knife will actually catch onto that safety line. So just like that, put him in there. I'll do it one more time, well, maybe two more times. So just like that, boom, drop them in. Oops, here we go. And you're just gonna continue doing this until all the babies are in. It'll be a little hard, especially since I'm recording. This is a little tricky, but with a little practice, you'll be able to do it. Sometimes you'll crawl off on the outside of the enclosure. So let me just try to get him. There we go. Boom. Just like that. And you can do that. That's how you'll transport your jumping spiders. So one more time. Just like that. Boom. If your enclosure is like mine, where it has ventilated holes, your jumping spiders could very well crawl out from those holes. That one looks like it's trying to escape actually as I speak. But the fruit flies that you feed your jumping spiders could also crawl out of the holes as well. So I've already gone ahead and removed this one. And what you're going to do is you're going to just plug the hole with a cotton ball. This way, your jumping spiders cannot pass through the holes at all. It just completely blocks them. Now, this isn't going to cause your jumping spiders to suffer if you have any of these holes in your enclosures and you go ahead and plug them with the cotton ball. The air will be able to filter through the cotton ball and will provide adequate air for your jumping spiders to thrive in. So no need to worry about them choking or, you know, suffocating, I should say. and I'm going to go ahead and get this one. So, alright, so now that both holes are plugged with the cotton balls, I will show you a cool way that you can feed your jumping spiders without having to take the lid off. Let's just say the lid is on, right? The jumping spiders are up on the lid and they're in the corners. You know, you go and take it off, and then you have little baby jumping spiders running out, right? Well, now all you have to do is just simply take a cotton ball out, dump your fruit fly culture inside the jumping spider enclosure, and then quickly just plug it up. And now the spiders can escape, and also the flies can escape as well. Now when feeding your jumping spiders, I personally feed them every 3 to 4 days. You want to have at least a schedule when feeding them, because at this stage they are very young and are pretty fragile and will die fairly quickly if you don't keep up with them and maintain proper care. So feed them at least every 3 to 4 days. Give them water. Give them water at least 1 to 2 days. I just spray their enclosure, just lightly spray. They're still very young, so if you spray hard, that won't be a good thing. So try to keep away from the enclosure if you can, or if you have a spray bottle that has like a light mist, that would be best. But yeah, spray the side of the enclosure. They will, if you look closely, they'll start actually drinking the little droplets of water. And also, if you have a substrate at the bottom, which I will get into in a second when I discuss Enclosure B, the substrate is going to be a bit important because it's going to add humidity to the enclosure. You want to have a moist substrate. I know this substrate is dry, and I'll get to that in a second, but humidity is very vital, because if they don't have humidity, they're going to desiccate. And not only that, but when they go to try and molt, if it's too dry, they will have a mismolt and will not be able to form properly and will ultimately die. So you want to have your substrate fairly moist. This substrate obviously is too dry, so I'm going to be using some moist organic sphagnum moss. I'm going to put this in this enclosure. The other enclosure I will get to in a second, but you can use a type of peat moss. Okay, so now my sphagnum moss is in there, nice and moist. As you notice your enclosure getting dry, just like I said, add more water. Try to spray at least 1 to 2 times a day, but you don't want to make it overly saturated with water. Too much water will kill them. Too little water will also kill them as well. So just finding that right medium will ensure that your jumping spiders thrive perfectly in their little habitat. So this enclosure is completely finished. You may notice that the egg sac that's in there, I'm not going to take the lid off because I don't feel like having to deal with a bunch of babies trying to escape, but the egg sac still has a few babies. Well, it still has a fairly good amount. That is perfectly okay. They will come out when they are ready. They're not going to just remain in their egg sac the entire time. Eventually they will escape just like the rest of them, so that's okay. Now let's say if you did want to remove those babies, I will include a video right now for my Instagram on how to do that. But basically you're going to you can take 1 or you could take 2, a pair of like tongs, and like imagine that let's say, here, I'll use this. Let's say this is the egg sac, right? You're going to take one side, take the other, and you're just going to lightly pull apart the strands of silk, and then the babies will eventually crawl out, and just have your enclosure ready for them to fall down into. Okay, make sure you don't squish any of the babies. Make sure you look ahead of time where you're going to be grabbing to ensure the safety of the baby jumping spiders. So I will include the video right now. Alright, so now we can work on Enclosure B, okay? Now you don't need something like Enclosure A to raise jumping or baby jumping spiders in. You can raise them perfectly fine in a 32-ounce container like the one that I'm holding right now. I've done it in the past and it works just fine. So let's say you have a 32-ounce container. You're going to want some moist substrate in there, and here I have some peat moss that I've already moistened. You can add some sphagnum moss to it if you'd like. It doesn't really matter. I'll just add a few little pieces right there just to retain some humidity in the enclosure. Alright, so next you're going to want some Enclosure. That's what this stuff is right here. It's used commonly for fruit fly cultures, and if you're going to raise jumping spiders in this, you're probably going to want to use some of this. It kind of offers footing for your jumping spiders to crawl on. You don't have to add much, but just rip a little bit out. I'll show you. And you're just going to stuff it right in the enclosure just like that. You can get this stuff on Amazon or elsewhere online. It's pretty readily available. The fruit flies will also have some footing as well when you go and feed them. Now this method, the Enclosure B method, I actually saw on a YouTube video, and it kind of inspired me to want to include it in this video. I don't remember the person's channel, but after I record this video, I will add it right here. So I just want to give a shout out to that person. Sorry if you get your channel's name. Like I said, I will include it. But I do like this method. I've tried it and it has worked for me. But what you're gonna do is put your lid on to your 32-ounce container, and then you're going to get a nail, or you can also get a knife. It doesn't really matter, just something sharp to be able to cut with, and you're going to poke a hole anywhere. You can pick any one of these ventilated holes, but I'll just pick this one, and just gonna poke through just like that and get rid of all that excess fabric or whatever this stuff is. Alright, so once you cut away a little opening in one of the ventilated holes, you're gonna want to get a screw that is has like a wide head, one that's bigger than the ventilated hole, so that when you go and push the screw in, just like that, it covers the hole. And it's kind of, I mean, it's the same method really as this, a cotton ball that plugs the hole of this enclosure. Well, this screw plugs the hole of this lid, all right? And I'm sure you can imagine what you do is you get some fruit flies, and what you would do, because you can't just pour a bunch of fruit flies in here because the hole is so small, they're not going to really be able to just land in there, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to put your fruit flies in a cup, much like this. It could be this, you know, another 32-ounce ventilated container, an empty one. Put the fruit flies in a refrigerator for several minutes, and then that'll kind of put them to like a little sleep. It's not going to kill them. They're going to be very sluggish. Take them out and dump them into a funnel. Now, I unfortunately don't have a funnel on me right now, but have a funnel, preferably a small little funnel. And then, so imagine this is the funnel, right? You're gonna dump the fruit flies through the funnel, and they're gonna go through the hole of the lid and then drop into the enclosure of your jumping spiders. The fruit flies are going to then wake up and become active, and then the jumping spiders are obviously going to be able to see moving prey, and they're going to eat them. So that is the method of point B. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple and easy. You know, sorry I don't have a visual way of showing you since I don't have any baby jumping spiders in here, but I'm sure you can imagine and visualize everything that I just mentioned. We're almost towards the end of the video, but I would like to touch on cannibalism when it comes to jumping spiders. At this stage, like I said, they are second end star. Oops. That's not what you want to happen. Make sure that's secured in there. There we go. Yeah, they are second end star, and at this stage, they are pretty friendly towards each other. I mean, they're not going to cause each other problems. Just like I always said, you know, make sure they're well fed. They will resort to cannibalism if they are not fed regularly. They will go hungry and resort to eating each other. But at this stage, it's very low. They're usually not going to do that. As they molt and, you know, achieve bigger size, around like 4th instar, 5th instar, that's when you're going to want to separate them. All right, and you can separate them into smaller enclosures, you know, because you will probably have a lot of jumping spiders if yours have made it to 4th and 5th instar. But yeah, you're going to want to separate them, and then from there they will just be solitary and will be so until they are fully matured adult jumping spiders. So yeah, right now it is perfectly okay to cohabitate with them. They are extremely communal at this, you know, at this stage of life. But as they grow older, just, you know, keep an eye, keep feeding them regularly, keep providing them with the right humidity, and you should be okay. And then just separate them as they reach about 4th, give or take 5th instar, and then keep them solitary. Now this may come to a surprise to many, but you do not want to keep these guys in the dark. Try to have them in the light at all times, honestly. You can get like an LED light, or I try to keep them away from sunlight just so they, you know, the sunlight might be too harsh, it might dry them out and kill them, but keep them in a nice room temperature, fairly cool environment, but at least have light for them. Provide some sort of light. Doesn't need to be natural light. It could be, I mean, it could be natural light, but just not direct sunlight on them. It could be artificial light, like I said, LED. But yeah, these guys are visual predators. They need to be able to see, to hunt, to catch your food. If you keep them in the dark, then they will be very sluggish. They will be huddled up in a corner. They're not going to be very active, and most likely they are going to refuse to eat, and you do not want that, especially at this age when they are fairly young and need a lot of nutrition to be able to grow, because they are extremely fragile at this stage. But keeping them in the dark will, in their minds, think that they're outside and that there's a you know, cloudy weather, and then there's going to be rain, thunderstorm, whatever. So what they're gonna naturally do is retreat and get cover. They're gonna huddle together, and they're not going to eat. So provide some sort of light source for them, and they should do just fine when you go and feed them. If they're not hungry when they first come out of their egg sac, like see how these guys, I'm not going to feed them because they just came out of their egg sac, and they're, you know, crawling around, getting used to their new environment. They're usually not going to eat this first day when they all crawl out. I would just give it a few days and then provide food. If they still don't eat, keep trying. Try the next day or the day after that, but eventually they're gonna eat, okay? And then once they eat, then about 3 to 4 days later, feed them again. 3 to 4 days later, feed them again. But that is pretty much the end of this video. I would just like to thank you guys again for bearing with me over these past couple of months of not posting on YouTube, but I'm hoping that I will be able to keep providing content on here with you guys regularly. If you Actually, let me switch to my face. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, and also follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. Instagram at Kelvin Wiley, TikTok at Kelvin_Wiley. If you guys have any questions that I didn't touch on in this video about keeping jumping spiders or just jumping spider questions in general, feel free, please, by all means, ask me in the comments and I will do my best to try to get back to you. So I will see you guys in the next video, and peace.